Shrimadbhagavatam ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Samaveda Bhaktavinda ki Gaur Premanande All glories of Samadhi. All glories of Samadhi.
Hare Krishna.
All glories of Samadhi.
Hare Krishna.
All glories of Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayana Namaskritya.
Narayana Namaskritya.
Naram Java Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tattavajayamudiriye. Nastaprayeshu Bhadreshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Tamashloke. Bhakti Bhagavati Naishtaki. Yeah. You can turn that off. That's good. Jai. So reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, Text 4.
Text 4.
The son of Drona punished. 1, chapter 7, text 4. Yeah. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranile amale apashyat purusham purnam mayam chatadapashrayatam Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite amale apashyat purusham purnam mayam chatadapashrayam Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite amale apashyat purusham purnam mayam chatadapashrayam
Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male apashyat purusham purnam mayam chatadapashrayam. Anybody else? Bhakti. Devotional service. Yogena. By the process of linking up. Manasi. Upon the mind. Samyak. Perfectly. Pranihite. Engaged in the fix upon. Amale. Without any matter. Apashyat. Saw. Purusham. The personality of Godhead. Purnam. Absolute. Mayam. Energy. Cha. Also. Tat. His. Apashrayam. Under full control. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, without any tinge of materialism. Thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with His external energy, which was under full control. Please repeat. Thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it, by linking it in devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, without any tinge of materialism. And thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead, along with His material energy, which was under full control. Perfect vision. Perfect vision of the absolute truth is possible only by the linking process of devotional service. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. One can perfectly realize the absolute truth of Godhead only by the process of devotional service. And one can enter into the kingdom of God by such perfect knowledge. Imperfect realization of the absolute by the partial approach of the impersonal Brahman or the localized Paramatma does not permit anyone to enter into the kingdom of God. Shri Narada advised Vyasadeva to become absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and His activities. Srila Vyasadeva did not take notice of the effulgence of Brahman because that is not the absolute vision. The absolute vision of the personality of Godhead is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:19, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. In the Upanishads, it is also confirmed that Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, is covered by the golden, glowing Hiranmayana, Patrena, veil of impersonal Brahman. And when that curtain is removed by the mercy of the Lord, the real face of the Absolute is seen. The Absolute is mentioned here as the Purusha, or person. The Absolute Personality of Godhead is mentioned in many Vedic literatures. And in the Bhagavad Gita, the Purusha is confirmed as the eternal and original person. The absolute personality of Godhead is the perfect person. The Supreme Person has manifold energies, out of which the internal, external, and marginal energies are specifically important. The energy mentioned here is the external energy, as will be clear from the statements of her activities. The internal energy is there along with the absolute person, as the moonlight is there within the moon. The external energy is compared to darkness because it keeps the living entities in the mode of darkness. The word apashrayam suggests that this energy of the Lord is under full control. The internal potency or supreme energy is also called Maya, but it is spiritual Maya, or energy exhibited in the absolute realm. When one is under the shelter of the internal energy, the darkness of material ignorance is at once dissipated. And even those who are Atmarama, or fixed in trance, take shelter of this Maya, or internal energy. Devotional service or Bhakti Yoga is the function of the internal energy. Thus, there is no place for the inferior energy or material energy, just as there is no place for darkness in the effulgence of the spiritual light. Such internal energy is even superior to the spiritual bliss attainable as in the conception of personal Brahman. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that the impersonal Brahman effulgence is also an incarnation from his absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The Parama Purusha cannot be anyone except Sri Krishna, as will be explained later in the later shlokas. Om Jnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yenam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamshra Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paritana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaulangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatrubhyashram Krupasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatadine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Repeat the verse again. Thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaging in it by linking it in devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, without any tinge of materialism, and thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. So we're now in the 7th chapter of the first canto, making our way very nicely.
Excuse me, this isn't Vyasadeva talking, is it? This is not Vyasadeva talking.
Not Vyasadeva talking, but this is talking about Srila Vyasadeva.
Oh.
So who's speaking?
So this is Sutta Goswami speaking.
Oh, this is Sutta Goswami, okay.
Because in the beginning of this chapter, Shaunaka Rishi had asked, what did Vyasadeva do after getting all this instruction from Narada Muni? Right, so in the last chapter, Narada Muni had instructed and given some guidance to Srila Vyasadeva, explaining why he was lamenting and why he was not so feeling satisfied. And so Narada Muni told Srila Vyasadeva to, come to this place of meditation. Actually, in the last verse, we see that Prabhupada writes in the purport, under the instructions of the spiritual master, Sri Narada Muni, Vyasadeva concentrated his mind in that transcendental place of meditation. So this is the sum and substance of the entire spiritual process, which is to follow the dictations of the spiritual master in full. When one does, one is assured that they are practicing Krishna consciousness correctly. Because Krishna consciousness, bhakti, is a process. It's a process. A process is defined by prescribed activities. And there is an effective process, and there is an ineffective process. Like in anything. There's a process to make chapatis. If you follow that process to make chapatis, they'll come out nice.
Right.
But if you just speculate on your own, maybe they'll come, maybe they won't. So bhakti is also a process. It is not one of one's mental speculation. This is what I think means to love Krishna. That time of one's own expression of bhakti will come when one purifies the heart to the point that one can listen to the heart. See, if we listen to the heart in its contaminated state, then my bhakti will also be contaminated. Just like if I am looking at something through glasses that are smudged with some oil, whatever I'm observing is going to look blurry. It's going to look distorted. Right? Because I'm looking through an imperfect lens. So similarly, if I look at the process of devotional service through the imperfect lens of my contaminated heart, then I'll make mistakes. So what to do? The process is simple. That we take dictation from the purified soul, from the spiritual master, who guides one in how to practice devotional service. And what qualifies them? Because they are sufficiently purified. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, because they have seen the truth, tattva darshinaha, they can impart the truth upon us. So, Srila Vyasadeva, in great confidence, is now engaged in meditation, is he's fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service, bhakti yoga. So this is a very important process. Srila Prabhupada writes in the first line of purport, perfect vision of the absolute truth is possible only by the linking process of devotional service. So what is yoga?
Union or linking.
Linking. Yoga means to link. That is the meaning of yoga. And to link with what? The Supreme. So any practice of yoga is intended to connect the soul to the Supreme Lord. Then it is yoga. I think as we heard last Sunday in class, there's so much yoga out there. But in essence, it is a process to make the body fit, to then allow it to enjoy its senses. Complete opposite of its intent. Even when we get into meditation, trying to calm the mind, control the mind. Why? So it can enjoy eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev, Jai Shri Shri Radha. So this yoga has only one goal, and that is to serve Krishna. Well, how we can say that? Because who is the author of the yoga system? Krishna. He gave all the yoga processes in Bhagavad Gita. And after describing all the processes, he says, Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratama shraddavam bhajate yomam samayukta tado mataha. He says, of all the processes of yoga, he has given karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, buddhi yoga, and ultimately bhakti yoga. He says, of all these processes, he says, Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam. One who with faith engages in devotional service to me, they are the highest of all. That is my opinion. Whose opinion?
Krishna's opinion.
How valid is Krishna's opinion?
It's the absolute.
He's the absolute truth. That means that it is true in all circumstances, in all scenarios, in all situations. When I say it is hot outside, that is not the absolute truth. Because it may not be hot tomorrow. It may not be hot compared to, some blazing desert in Nevada. So that's a relative truth. But the absolute truth is absolute. And Krishna is the absolute truth. There is nothing beyond Krishna. Prabhupada writes in his purport that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? And there is no fact beyond Krishna. He is the Sarva Karana Karana, the cause of all causes. He is the Anadya Adya, the origin of everything. So, the absolute truth comes from Krishna. Just like if I am, living in a country and a local minister tells me this is what we should do. And I'm thinking, maybe that's not right. Then I go up to the provincial minister and ask them. And they tell him something different. Then I go all the way up to the king himself and ask. Now do I have perfect understanding in this relative context? Because there's no authority higher than the king. So I can then be assured I'm right in whatever I'm hearing. So similarly, when we hear from Krishna himself, we are assured the absolute truth. And thus we can engage with confidence, with full conviction, because we know there is no truth beyond it. There's no new information that will come out that will contradict what Krishna is saying. Right? What the local minister might say could get contradicted by the provincial minister. Right? Because that's a higher authority in that example. And what the provincial minister might say might get contradicted by the king, ultimately. But nobody can counteract the king. Again, in this mundane example. So similarly, we hear so many, different philosophies and ideas and processes. And they're all, those that are valid, have their place, have their time and circumstance by which they may make sense. But the absolute truth comes from Krishna. And so, he in Bhagavad Gita has said that, and he actually goes in to say, this is my opinion. as if he needs to say that, right? Very beautiful, he says that. And he explains that devotional service, this is the ultimate practice of yoga. So, Srila Prabhupada writes, perfect vision of the absolute truth is possible by this linking process, bhakti yoga. So this devotional service. And what is bhakti yoga? It is the expression of our love to Krishna through service. Prabhupada translated bhakti yoga as devotional service. Bhakti implies devotion, love. And love is shown through service. If I love somebody, I render service to them. Yeah. Right? If I love my mother, I can say, Mother, I love you. That's nice. But if I render some service to my mother, that is the expression of love. So bhakti is the expression of love to Krishna through service. These wonderful pujaris have shown their expression of love by so beautifully serving and decorating Shri Radha Kunja, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra, Srinathji Bhagwan, and Gaurnitai, Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta. In such beautiful outfits and jewelry and flower garlands and such attention to detail. That is the expression of love through service. So devotional service is an active engagement. It is not an idle engagement. So when Srila Vyasadeva is engaging his mind, right, the principles of bhakti are that to always remember Krishna and never forget him. Always remember Krishna and never forget him. It is explained that all the principles of bhakti must align to these two facts. Always remember Krishna and never forget him. And so Srila Vyasadeva is engaging his mind in thinking of Krishna. And as we know, that in this age, what is the only way to engage our mind in thinking of Krishna? Chanting. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told us, Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalo, Nashteva, 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 Gatir Anyatha. He would quote this verse from the Brihan Naradiya Puran, in which it says, in this age of Kali Yuga, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. Then, chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names. No other way. So, then why we would pursue any other activity? Or at least I can say it differently. In our practice of bhakti, what we should prioritize? Our energy. We have limited energy, limited time, limited capacity. When we understand through the prescribed process, not our own concocted process, but through the prescribed process, by one who has perfect vision, then we understand what is best. So, this chanting of the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This is the prime benediction for humanity. We chant in Shikshashtakam prayers every morning. It is a prime benediction for humanity. What does that mean, prime benediction? It is the best activity for all of humanity. So, this chanting of the holy names is the process by which we achieve this linking with Krishna. This yoga is achieved through mantra yoga.
Through what yoga?
Mantra yoga. Mantra. Through the mantras. What does mantra mean?
Can you spell that?
Man means mind.
Okay.
Tra means to deliver, to free. To free the mind from its material entanglements, we chant the Maha Mantra. And that is the goal of our spiritual life, to free the mind from all the material attachments and dedicate the mind in remembering Krishna and never forgetting Him. So, and Srila Vyasadeva here, Suti Goswami is explaining that he performed this without any tinge of materialism. You know, we see in this definition of pure devotional service, Anyabhilashita shunyam. Shunyam means none. Zero, zippo. No material desires. No material desires. That is pure. Right? When I have gold and I have some mixed metals in there, then it is not pure gold. It's an alloy. It's mixed. But when I remove those impurities, what remains? Pure gold. So bhakti is pure when I remove any tinge of materialism. Material desires, even this jnana, this philosophical speculation, all of that is an impurity in the practice of devotional service. So, Srila Vyasadeva is practicing this perfectly. And what was the result? And thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead. That is the result. Krishna is standing here in his Archa Vigraha form, his Murti form. Why? Because we are not purified like Srila Vyasadeva, that by concentrating the mind perfectly, engaging in devotional service, we can see the Lord. So, because we are impure, Krishna chooses to stand in this Archa Vigraha form, fully empowering. There's no difference between the deity of the Lord and the Lord Himself. No difference. But we perceive a difference. Why? Again, because of the impurities in our senses. When the eyes are purified, when they are anointed with love, pure love, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena, you see in Brahma Samhita. When the eyes are anointed with love, we will see Krishna. We will not see deity. We will see Krishna. Our actions will reflect that knowledge. Once Srila Prabhupada was asked, Prabhupada, did the deities really eat the offering? Or just did the offering? We have some basic philosophical faith. Yeah, Krishna is eating. But we also have some doubts. But Srila Prabhupada said, yes, I can see the deities eating. I can see them eating. But you cannot. Why? Because Srila Prabhupada's eyes were purified. So the devotee, they see Krishna when they see the Lord. We see Krishna, we see marble, we see wood, we see a little bit of it, we get tinges of it.
Yes.
But not full. So what to do? Keep chanting. Keep chanting. Cheto darpana marjanam baba mahanda bhagnani vapanam. That this cleansing of the heart occurs by chanting. And when we sufficiently purify, then we will see Krishna in this deity form. Actually, when one is purified, when they chant, they see Krishna dancing on their tongue. Don't even need to go anywhere. One sees and feels Krishna's presence by uttering Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Do we see Krishna dancing on our tongue? I don't, maybe you all do. But that is what will manifest. And when one does, one doesn't ever want to stop chanting Krishna because they get the darshan of the Lord. They don't want him to ever go away. Just like Narada Muni in the last chapter we saw, right? He achieved Bhava Bhakti, this ecstasy, and he got a glimpse of the Lord, but then he lost it. And he didn't see it ever again in that life. He was so anxious to see it. So similarly, when one purifies, they see the Lord dancing on their tongue as they utter names, Krishna. And it's so sweet that what do they do after chanting the name Krishna? They chant again. Okay. To see Krishna again. And after they're done, what do? Chant again. Krishna. The pure devotee, they don't chant 16 rounds. What they chant? 24/7. Why? Because each time they utter the name Krishna, they are seeing and experiencing the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally. And that experience is so sweet and so fulfilling that nothing else can enter their consciousness. Nothing else can enter their consciousness. Because nothing can compare to that experience. That's the purity of devotional service. And that's what manifests when one follows the prescribed process. That process must be followed. We chant 16 rounds and make a vow to our spiritual master. Why? Because we are not yet internally motivated. We don't have the taste for chanting. When the taste emerges, one says, one tongue is not sufficient to chant the names. One tongue is not sufficient. That's how sweet it is. So that's why we follow the process to achieve that state. And if we follow the process that's been proven, that's been walked by many before us, and found success, then we are guaranteed our own success. But what prevents us from following this process? Our false ego. When our false ego enters the equation, everything goes awry. We blame the external energy, right? Here, Sutta goes on explaining that Vyasadeva saw the external energy, Maya. Maya is not at fault. Maya is not to blame. Maya is simply serving her Lord. And our Lord is not to blame for our influence of Maya. What is to blame? Our false ego. Because we said to Krishna, why you, why not me? Envy of the Supreme Lord. We wanted to become God. We wanted to try to enjoy separate from the Lord. And so, Krishna said, okay, I can put you under my spell of Maya, and you can pretend to be separated from me. She's a powerful illusion because to be separated from Krishna is impossible. It's impossible. Just like a magician. If a magician wants to make some building disappear, it takes a very powerful illusion. Because the building is there. So similarly, for us to try to experience something that is not possible, separation from Krishna, Krishna enacts a very powerful illusion, Maya. And why he did that? Because we wanted to be separate from Krishna. So who is to blame for our inability to see Krishna? Ourselves. Yeah. It's our false ego. It's not Maya's fault. Because when we surrender to Krishna, Maya becomes secondary. She's very happy to relinquish the illusion. Because that's what her beloved Lord Krishna wants. So, this external energy that Srila Vyasadeva saw is not to be frowned upon. It is to be feared. That when we come under influence of Maya, we become bewildered. Because remember, this same energy that Prabhupada writes in his purport exists in the spiritual world and serves as the facilitator for our devotional service. So, this is the opportunity we have. Like Srila Vyasadeva, he followed the process laid out by Narada Muni and went into engaging his mind in always remembering Krishna and never forgetting him without any tinge of materialism. And thus he saw the Lord. And so if we follow the process that is coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is to chant the holy names of the Lord sincerely, with concentration on Krishna, making that our prime activity, because it is the prime benediction for humanity, then we'll find success in devotional life. Shrimadbhagavatam, Grantharaj Shrimadbhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Dhantakoti Vaishnavinda ki. Any comments or discussion?
Very nice, thank you. I really needed to hear that. I need some
So did I.
I need some encouragement.
Yes, Mataji.
I was listening to a celebration for Bhakti Swami yesterday, and when he was opening up the West Africa segment of the country, he went to the university, and a whole lot of academics were there, Indian right? And he gave a lecture, and wow, they were like, we've never heard it like this before. So then they invited him to the temple. It was packed, full of more academia. Srivas was the president of Telangana, was getting very nervous because instead of giving a lecture, Gurudev closed his eyes and opened up the spiritual side by chanting for 2 hours. He was like, oh no, you're not giving them what attracted them at first. So he was apologetic at the end. Said, I'm sorry we didn't get to hear his lecture. And they're like, are you kidding? He gave them a taste. And they said, we will definitely be back.
That is
So it was the power of the mantra.
the completeness of the holy names. There's nothing lacking in the holy names.
And they felt his bhakti.
Yeah. And when they're chanted from the mouth of a pure devotee, that mantra has potency. So we chant these 10 offenses to the holy name. What's the 5th offense?
Not Speaking, chanting the prayer. No.
Imagination.
Say it again. Oh, it's the full.
Consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination.
So to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. So what does that mean in practical terms? See, we should understand these offenses very clearly. Because otherwise, we go on chanting, but we are committing offenses. It is like, trying to put out a fire by pouring gasoline on it. All we're doing is making it rain. So, to consider the glories of chanting Hare, when we say that the holy names contain everything, that they are all powerful, that they are fully potent, that we don't need to do anything else. The idea in our mind comes, yeah, but. Yes, but. As soon as I say but, it means I disagree with everything.
Dr. Phil says when you say but, you've negated everything you said before.
Everything.
Yeah.
I disagree with everything. The holy names are perfect. Yes, but what about my deity worship? Yes, but what about reading Shrimadbhagavatam? So this often unintentional, when we doubt the completeness of the holy names, we doubt the completeness, it is the fifth offense. So how do we perform deity worship as an example and not commit offense to the holy names? Because if I'm doing deity worship, but the holy names are complete, how do I reconcile those two? Our worship of the deities, our reading of Shrimadbhagavatam, our rendering of service, it is for the purpose to build our faith in the holy names, to enthuse our chanting of the holy names. If I am doing that service, whatever it is, in lieu of chanting the holy names, then I'm missing the point. So all other angas of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti are there to support our chanting of the holy names. So the desired result from all forms of devotional service is to enthuse our chanting. And that's what, in that program, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj proved. Because when a pure devotee speaks the holy names, the recipient, the heart is transformed. And there was nothing missing. Externally, when you say, no, there was some philosophy that was supposed to be presented, there was some knowledge that was supposed to be shared, it was shared through the holy names. That is the potency. Yes?
Your mom is the one that gave me my first taste. and I can remember asking her, cleaning the table, I feel so blessed. And she's like, yeah, me too. And I thought she and I were the only ones that had that. And I used to do the dishes for ages, thinking of Krishna and being totally blissed out. So I guess the rounds, chanting the rounds, has always been my struggle.
Yeah.
So I needed to do what you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here, Mataji, in a good way.
Yeah, we want to carry that bliss into our chanting. Remember, it is a privilege to be able to chant the holy names of the Lord. It is a privilege. We say to Tulsi Maharani, give me the privilege of devotional service. It is a great fortune to be able to utter the names of Krishna and Rama.
I had to pray to Paramatma
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Durdevam idisham naha janaraga. Durdevam. What is our misfortune? We only have one misfortune. No taste for the holy name.
Okay.
That is our misfortune. And that is why our great fortune is this vow we take to the spiritual master. To chant. Because of the lack of taste, we wouldn't chant without that vow. Sometimes we view, why do I have to chant 16 rounds to take initiation? That's the greatest asset of our life. It's not a liability. If you're an accountant, you know we have assets and liabilities. Liabilities are things that, drain us. Assets are things that generate. Without the asset of that vow, how we would take seriously to the chanting of the holy names. It's right there. So, instead of fearing that vow, we embrace it. Because we don't yet have the taste. In due course, that vow becomes... See, we can measure this by one simple fact. We make a vow to chant minimum 16 rounds a day. But in our condition, at least speaking for myself, my minimum equals my maximum. As soon as 16 rounds are done, done. Done. Minimum equals maximum. Get it? Not the 17th round, not the 18th round, the 19th round. Why? I made a vow to chant minimum 16. Not maximum. Minimum.
You can optimize it. Wow.
Where does it?
No chant, no taste. So that is what we strive for every day. When we chant these mantras, Shikshashtakam prayers, we should meditate on its meaning. Chanting them in Sanskrit is limited value unless you understand and you can speak Sanskrit, which virtually nobody can. So we should meditate on the meaning of what we are chanting. Everything. Everything. Samsara nalalita loka. What am I chanting? Right? We should know. Because these prayers are what give us the process.
By the way, somebody was teaching Gita classes, if anybody's interested. Were you here when Ganesh drank milk? And
No.
you could see it with your eyes?
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can actually see it. I don't think he has a mouth, but it disappeared from his spoon.
I believe it. All right. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you for the opportunity.